And welcome back to everybody off day. Andy, like I said, on our first attempt to do this, I feel like if you and I are going to occupy any space in sports, it's certainly that of the Curb Your Enthusiasm, Larry David vibe. How's your Tuesday?
I mean, so far so good. Sorry for the premature. I don't know what you want to call that, non-launch, and then we came back.
Non-launch, yeah.
But nobody was there to see it, so it's fine.
Yeah. Well, no one's still here, but and that's the problem is I need like a 5-minute entry because it usually takes people a few minutes to catch up, jump on with us. But yeah, I did notice one thing though as I was watching that back this next time is we haven't been to a ball game together, and it shows because one of those pictures we have both lost a lot of weight since that one was taken.
Yeah, I usually cringe when I see the ones I know you're going to cycle through because
there's especially one of the Astros games where you and I are. Yeah, there's one in the Astros game where you and I are much thinner than we were then. So, all right. Well, look, here's the thing. Football happened. I want to start Longhorns first, Andy, and I want to go ahead and give you my unabashed take on what has happened, because as you can imagine, and as you've seen, the national media and my fan base have reacted completely reasonable and rationally to the football game that occurred on Saturday in Columbus, Ohio. I believe everything that the Longhorns still have out in front of them on Saturday morning, they still absolutely have in front of them. I've said on this show, I did not pick them to win Saturday. I don't think I changed my pick from the Monday. Did I?
Well, you did pick them to win on the show, and then on our text exchange Saturday morning, you changed your pick because God doesn't like you.
But I feel like our first shade last week I didn't. I feel like there's a lot of inconsistency there. But I did say it's because God didn't like me, which is hardly the most football reason, but I get it. But reality is everything they want out of there. I don't think that Arch Manning is a bust. I think you had a lot of things going on in that game, including a very good Ohio State defense. I also think that you had an incredibly conservative game plan, which kind of shocked me a little bit. You didn't see nearly what you usually see out of a Steve Sarkisian offense with motion and things moving around in different formations. And I do think if there's one takeaway that's an actual criticism that you can take away to actually learn from is I do believe Sarkisian has a red zone problem, because now we've got at least 2 games against Ohio State to prove that there's a red zone problem. But no, I think Arch Manning is still going to do what I predicted, which is take us to a national championship next year.
Well, and not even because I'm just going to bring A&M to this conversation, but you had a red zone problem against Texas A&M last year too. And I know you won the game, dominated the game. I don't know anybody who's watched this that needs to remind me of what happened in College Station last November. But that offense, as dynamic as it should be, with now 2 all-world quarterbacks back-to-back, Ewers and Manning, and weapons at every other skill position, bogs down in the red zone on a very consistent basis. And I've got to think it comes down to coaching. It's got to come down to Sark's scheme because the offense is his. And he is as we've noted on this show before, a very, very stubborn coach, to the point that he has lost games or made games a lot closer because he insists on passing the ball when you're running at 5, 6, 7 yards a clip. And we've seen that time and time. And I think it's the same kind of thing in the red zone. It's conservative, but it's also like, I'm going to do this because I think it's the best thing to do, regardless of what the results have been on the field for the last 3 games that you played.
Yeah. I mean, to your point, it almost felt like the 4th down play, which they essentially went for the tush push, when you've got a quarterback that's so athletic that literally the game plan in the red zone to fix the issues was to put him in. And for them to just do that as opposed to a play fake, bootleg, run past option just off the top of my head when everybody's pinched in tight, particularly because you texted me right afterwards and you said very weird because that the strength of the Ohio State defense is actually the middle of that defensive line. That is and you ran right into it with no real effort.
And this isn't Xbox coaching, but it's pretty common that you see we're going to run it up the gut twice. That doesn't work. Maybe we're going to spread it out a little bit because clearly that defense is stacked to stop anything going through the tackles. And you've got a quarterback who is really fast and is a really good runner and a tough runner. You've got running back options that should be out there. And frankly, I don't remember the tight end's name, who wasn't really helping push the line at all, was just kind of standing there by the end of that play, could have just been handed the football and
the line. Yeah. Well, and it's also the second game against Ohio State where you have to trust the fact that you have an elite defense. And what to me, that doesn't mean going for it on fourth down all the time. To me, that means both in this game and in the game they lost in the playoff, if they had taken some field goals instead of going for some touchdowns. And look, I'm not going to blame anybody for going for it on fourth inside the 1. I'm not going to. But 4th and 3 from the 9, if you kick that field goal, then that final drive you're making is actually a drive to win the game. And if you do take another field goal at that other moment, you are trying to win the game. Now, I will say this, and I'm not trying to make a bunch of excuses. I think most people that watch this show know that I'm not super orange, glassy guy. I can call it when I see him. The reality is they handed Ohio State their first touchdown with 2 first down penalties on third down.
Sure.
They took 2 points off the board with a stupid penalty. And they outgained Ohio State in the game. And actually, Ewers out through, and particularly in the fourth quarter, Manning looked like what we were expecting.
You're starting to sound like some of your Twitter fan base who's longing for the days of Quinn Ewers.
All of a sudden, the same fans that wanted him that ran out of town on a rail want him back, which just shows you.
We would like Quinn Ewers to be murdered, please.
Yeah, please.
I remember that from last year.
Please murder him. So to me, I saw a quote. I don't remember who it was, but it said that week 1 in college football is for observations, not conclusions. And I think that's a really great way to look at it. And I think that there's a lot to indicate that the team will be a lot better. And if this game is going to be played in January, which I fully expect it to be, the outcome could very well be different.
Yeah, and it could. I think Ohio State's got a lot of room to improve as well. But it's a first game of the season. It is 2 top 5 teams, or two top 5 teams going at it, testing each other out. And I don't think it's shocking that it was as low scoring as it was. Manning didn't play up to expectations, but I think, as I've said on the show, probably every time we've talked about the Longhorns since Quinn Ewers has left, the expectations around Arch Manning are bordering on ridiculous at this point. He had a bad game. I'm not defending that. But I also think those in your fan base who are worried about who the backup quarterback is, because I saw those texts. Somebody named Owens. Is that right? I literally have
I don't even know, because they have 2 5-stars in the – no, they have 1 5-star in the room. They have a 5-star commit, but then they brought in a transfer, I think, to actually be the backup. I don't think they want the 5-star getting exposed at this point.
Well, regardless, you're going to look a lot better this week, because you will.
I mean, and that's the thing.
All teams look better in week 2 than they look in week 1. I think your quote about being an observation week rather than a conclusion week is absolutely right. It's disappointing, but as we said last Friday on this show, nothing that happened on Saturday changes anything for the Longhorn football program at all. Other than they're not going to be ranked number 1 when the AP poll comes out this morning, because who cares?
Who cares? I mean, they shouldn't have rankings until October anyway. But okay, so speaking of talking somebody off the ledge, okay. Andy, you're not happy with, was it 41-17? Is that what the final?
42-24, because we gave up another long play on the last play of the game. Because that's
so you didn't cover.
No.
Okay.
Not that I care about that, but no, there were many of the degenerate gambler types who watched this show and elsewhere that were quite upset that we didn't cover on the last play of the game. But it was one of the most predictable things you could guess. We went into a prevent defense with our 3rd or 4th string defense against their backup quarterback who is running their offense. This is what's going to happen.
All right, what did you think of Marcel Reed, though?
I would say this is an overall statement. Nothing that I saw Saturday makes me feel any better about my 6-6 prediction for the season. Reed looked better after a slow start, and I'm fully willing to admit that my tantrum doesn't change the fact that he played better as the game went on. But there's still some of the same issues, just wildly missing wide open receivers, taking too long to get the ball out. Still a little bit of what the old heads who might watch this show that are Houston fans right remember as the Warren Moon happy feet. And even though he wasn't really pressured ever, it's like he never had his footwork set. And I think that leads to a whole lot of other problems when you're a quarterback in a timing offense. There's some things I'm not worried about, but the new worry now is defense giving up big plays, because I believe even with Mike Elko taking the reins, and I've got a couple thoughts on this, the defense still gives up a big, huge gash chunk play of 40-plus yards, and I think they did it once on Saturday. And if you look at the past 14 or 15 games, it's been something like 11 or 12 of those 15 games that we've given up at least one of those plays.
How much of it for this year?
Good defense, we don't give up those plays.
Okay, well, and now I'm going to be like, it's actually funny. I almost made a run and shoot comparison to the Longhorn offense, because didn't they have a problem getting in the red zone back in the 90s? Like they would get all the way to like the 5.
Oh, yeah. All the yards were between the 20s.
Yeah.
Because you shrink the field. And if you want to talk about the run and shoot and why it fails sometimes in pro football, is because the athletes are faster. You've condensed the field. There's just not enough space to space people out. And the run and shoot was all based on spacing out and flooding with receivers. I
remember them wanting a fullback in Houston for the longest time.
Sure. And then, not use one, which is very common. But no, the defense was concerning. I assume it's going to get better, because
I was going to ask those, how much of it though could have been a vanilla scheme? You don't have a real game until the 13th when it's Notre Dame.
I don't buy that teams run vanilla schemes. I just don't. I think that if you are a work in progress, and maybe if you're a better team, you have the liberty to do that. But I think when you're a team with a bunch of young players trying to learn an offense, you just run the offense. I don't think there is any secrets that you hold back necessarily, besides a few gadget plays here or there, because coaches have tendencies. Coaches always have tendencies. If you've seen a coach for a season, you pretty much know what they're going to do. It's just a matter of when you're going to see it. Good coaches will take advantage of that. Better coaches will make adjustments. I think a lot of that's overblown. Did we specially package for UTSA? Probably not. But I also don't think we ran. I think we purposely were trying to get Marcel Reed from an offensive perspective, because I was talking about the defense. From an offensive perspective, I think we were trying to build Marcel Reed's confidence up and show that he could complete downfield passes and carry the offense by himself. And by and large, after the first two series, he did that.
Sure.
22 for 34, 289, had another 39 yards on the ground, had a perfectly fine game. We only ran the ball 22 times, and 8 of those were Marcel Reed. So there's a lot of A&M fans after Saturday's game, all day Sunday, all day Monday, were concerned that we can't run the ball as an offense. We didn't try to run the ball as an offense. And I think that was more by design of anything. So if you want to talk about holding back or playing vanilla, I don't think it was vanilla as much as it was us trying to do something very specific and still get the result that we wanted. The defense, however, is concerning, because we should be out-talenting a defense at the University of Texas, San Antonio. And that's not me being arrogant. That's me knowing that we recruit at a much higher level on the defensive side than they do on the offensive side.
You've had top 10 recruiting classes for the last 10 years or something like that.
And even though they had a veteran offensive line, returned 4 or 5 starters, even though they have a solid quarterback for the kind of program UTSA is, and even though their coaching staff has been together and has a good thing going for that program, we shouldn't be giving up 203 yards on the ground to that team. That's just not a thing that you do if you're playing sound, disciplined defense. And that's my biggest concern right now, is that this Elko coach team, and Elko's the defensive specialist, and this year he was taking the reins back, looked like crap most of the game, couldn't get off the field a lot. Now, they didn't give up a lot of points, but they gave up too many opportunities to a team at UTSA's level.
Well, I am all around anti a head coach still serving as the primary play caller for whatever. Like I definitely want Sarkisian designing the schemes, just like I bet you want Elko designing the scheme, but I need somebody to run that on game day because there's so much else going on a football sideline. Okay, so A&M's first real game is in 2 weeks. It's at Notre Dame. I'm not a guy who wants to travel to football stadiums, but Notre Dame, for many, many reasons, is so high on my list of wanting to go to it at some point. But A&M has Utah State in between, and Notre Dame has no one. They're going to have 2 weeks to game plan for that game. I mean, what are you expecting out of that?
Notre Dame's got issues as well. I watched their game on Sunday. They look fine. I think they were the
quarterback. They have Jesus.
Sure. But there are more there are more Catholics on the A&M football team than there are in the Notre Dame football team. And I'm not necessarily worried about all that.
Notre Dame's he can't get a curveball, though. I wonder if Jesus can catch a fly route.
Hey, Notre Dame's going to be a test, and I think it'll be a different test because it should be about our offense trying to score on their defense, which will certainly be part of it. But now it's going to be about how this defense game plans for a running back like Love and a running team with a good offensive line, D1 offensive line, when they could not stop the run at all against UTSA. Now, will they scheme differently for Notre Dame? Will they game plan for Notre Dame? Yes. They literally only have one game of tape right now for the current personnel. They'll rely on last year's game, which – with a pretty bad Connor Wegman, we were in until the middle of the fourth quarter when things wheels kind of fell off. It is on the road. It is under touchdown Jesus's purview. It's not a game that I had circled as a win, so I'm not going to be changing course at this point. I fully expect in the interim that we'll look much better against UTSA or University of Utah State. No matter what, an Aggie's going to win on Saturday in Station. But I need to see that. I've got to see more from the defense. I've got to see them impose their will on people, and I haven't seen that in a while. So more of the same in College Station right now, I think.
Last thing on college football for right now is that comedian Matt Mitchell's kind of started doing his SECs type videos, and they're clearly attempting to be a ripoff of SEC shorts, but you know what? They're not too bad. So I don't know. I'll put a link in when I repost this, I guess. I don't know what that has to do with anything, but we don't have them up right now, but I will show everybody just to give you an idea of what you're talking about here. We're still up 3 games in the American League West. And
before we get there, I did want to mention one more thing about college football.
Sure.
Because the joke's just too easy. The gap in the North Carolina game last night was less than the gap in Bill Belichick's girlfriend's age between those two.
Yeah, so wow.
I'm glad those numbers are shrinking. That was a great investment, North Carolina.
Yeah, that escalated. That escalated quickly last night.
I mean, that wasn't just a beating. That was, I'm not prepared to play college football in 2025 coaching. That's what that was.
And they were so quick to push Mac Brown out the door. And, obviously Mac Brown was long in the tooth at this point.
Sure.
And, I'm not sure why he would have wanted to stay.
Or you replaced him with another 70-year-old.
And then you replace him with another 70-year-old, which sold the shit out of some T-shirts. But, man, I bet you those T-shirts are on discount price right now.
I don't even think this is necessarily all that good a TCU team this year, but they just dismantled North Carolina, and good for them because all I can think of is why in the world was the nation's forced to watch that game on a primetime slot, Labor Day weekend, what would have normally been a showcase game. All it showcased is that Bill Belichick should have stayed retired and continuing to plow 20-year-olds.
Yeah, I mean – there you go. She might leave him after that one. That definitely, like I said, that thing escalated quickly. Okay. The Astros are 3 games up over the Mariners, but the Mariners, not only are they 3 games up because they could do something as they could not catch the Astros. The Rangers are suddenly only a game and a half behind the Mariners for the wild card. And, I hate the Rangers, but I do kind of find that funny to see that happen, as the Mariner fan base has done nothing but really tried to just act as if they've caught us already in the division. They clearly haven't. Astros 3 games up. Thoughts overall on where we're headed as far as the Astros and them trying to run down the division?
I still want a world where the Royals start winning games so I don't have to deal with either of the Rangers or Mariners fans in the offseason, because that'd be fun. It's always fun when neither of those teams make the playoffs, which Definitely. More often than not is the case. Disappointing week for the Astros, disappointing series. I think splitting against a pretty hapless Angels team was not what anybody wanted. Nobody wanted to lose a game against Colorado either. So right now you're 4-3 on a homestand, with the Yankees coming in for 3 to finish that out. But as bad as it was, and as bad as the offense looked for most of this week, nothing has changed in the standings.
In fact, actually, I think they're in a better spot than when we recorded last time.
Well, yeah, because there's fewer games. Magic number is less. I know we don't talk about magic number until it gets under 10, but it's less. Nothing bad happened for the Astros from a standing standpoint. And as a matter of fact, they're 3 games back right now in the loss column behind Detroit and Toronto. They do still have a series with Toronto to play, so there is a possibility of catching them still for a bye. That's still there. I still, and maybe I'm naive, maybe I'm just the hopeless dreamer and refuse to just see reality. This team isn't as bad as they've been playing.
No.
And I can't say, well, they're just one hit away or one thing away. It's just at some point, something's going to click. Maybe that was yesterday. Maybe it'll be tonight. Maybe it'll be this week. Maybe September makes us forget all about July and August. That's really the hope. I'd really like to get into that series against Seattle the second to last week of the season and have it mean nothing. That'd be fantastic. But I think this is going to go down to the wire. The Astros keep getting more healthy players back. I guess Jake Myers will be next on the menu. He'll have a hard time when he comes back of outshining what Luis Garcia did yesterday.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that. First of all, the pitching has been lights out better. Javier bounced back, Spaghetti bounced back, Luis Garcia bounced back. Honestly, McCullers looked good out of relief if he had just been the 1 inning. I don't know why they tried to stretch him.
He's a long guy. He's now Long McCullers Jr. That's what the L is.
Okay. Well, he shouldn't be.
No,
because his issues. I know he only made 3 innings a start, but those weren't good 3 innings. I don't know why we think. Yeah, but you gotta be impressed with the bounce back to both Spaghetti, Javier, and then Luis Garcia yesterday. You would take 6 innings, 3 runs automatically any day, all the time.
Yeah, and it was very clearly a mechanics issue for Garcia when that 1 inning when the Angels kind of teed off on him, because as soon as they corrected it, he stopped doing it and they stopped hitting him again. So, and he'll have those, because anybody who hasn't pitched in 28 months is going to have moments where, things just aren't clicking right. And I think, the Astros have been rewarded for their patience with him, with Javier, and with Arrighetti. Hopefully those two are rounding back into form. I think it is unrealistic for Astros fans to expect those guys to come back after layoffs of a year or 4 months or whatever it was for any of the ones who have come back, and expect them to immediately be at the top of their game. They're going to have regression. They're going to have setbacks. Hopefully going forward, we see more of what we saw this week from Javier and Arrighetti, and not what we saw their first few starts back from rehab. And same for Luis Garcia. Jordan has not hit for power, but has been a factor in all the games he played. I think he's got like a 500 on base percentage. The issue has not been Jordan. It's been the guys behind him, which is not great, but the entire team hasn't been hitting with runners in scoring position for most of the season. This week just really highlighted that up until yesterday's game.
Yeah, and here's hoping. The Astros tend to play better against pitchers that they've seen before, regardless of their talent level, which has been very perplexing part of this team. That, you know, the ERA really doesn't matter. It really almost matters if the Astros have seen them before, and the Astros have already beaten Max Fried before, so this year. So, and Max Fried has not been the same pitcher in the second half. So hopefully the Astros can keep this thing going with a Yankee team that's been as frustrating and hit or miss and all over the place as the Astros have been.
Yeah. It should be an interesting week. We don't have our best part of the rotation going up, and we've got to face Rodon on Thursday and somebody named Warren on Wednesday. Will Warren, never heard of him. We'll probably lose that game. I don't know if we faced him. But the Astros, right, wrong, or indifferent, do tend to, like you say, play up to their competition. The Yankees have played better since we saw them last. If the playoffs, I think, started today, we wouldn't face them, but we have the same record as them. So, you know, they have flaws, certainly, but there is no love lost, I think, between these two fan bases. I think that's overplayed on the player basis, but Jose Altuve is going to have a good series because Jose Altuve does have good series against the Yankees. The other guys need to pick it up, and especially Carlos Correa. I know he had a hit yesterday, but I think he was 0 for 10 before that and like 1 for 23 before that hit. He's struggled. Jordan's been on base, but just hitting singles. Pena hasn't done much prior to yesterday. Walker hasn't done much since the Colorado series. So Yiner is lost as he usually is. So it really is an entire team that decided to stop hitting all at once the second anybody got on second base. And you just I can't imagine that continues because there's no reason for it.
That's the thing, man. And I know like there's a lot of fire the hitting coaches talk, and I'm not going to poo-poo everybody who has that opinion, but to me it's just perplexing because it's not that they're not hitting. Like if they just weren't hitting, then absolutely fire the hitting coaches. Maybe the voices had gone stale. It's just they stop hitting whenever it's time to get somebody on second base. That's bizarre to me.
Yeah, and I would imagine there will be those conversations in the offseason. You're in first place in the division. You are, I don't want to say assured of, but close to as you can get assured of a playoff spot on September 2nd. You don't typically fire coaches when the team's at that level, regardless of how they got there. That'd be an off-season conversation. And if Citron and Stickler are being reviewed, which I would assume they are, if I'm Jim Crane and Dana Brown and I want to know if I've got the 5th or 6th highest payroll in baseball, why I'm going to finish less than 90 wins, that may be something that I look at. But that's a 2026 conversation, not a 2025 conversation. This is the team that we have, with Jake Myers maybe being the one thing that's going to come back that's going to be any kind of improvement. And that's, I'm hopeful that he comes back. The fact that we haven't heard anything about what's happened on his rehab doesn't make me feel great, knowing how the Astros like to communicate good news and virtually don't talk about bad news.
Yeah.
But I just can't imagine for this entire month we're going to see the Astros offense be what they've been this last week. And it could happen, but I'm just the fan in me doesn't think it's going to. And I think it starts with this series against the Yankees where they just pick it up the next notch.
Yeah, you're right, though. I'm looking up, trying to just find any kind of news on Myers' rehab, and the last thing I can find is from 5 days ago that he was beginning to start. I don't know what kind of numbers he's put up. I'll try to look at that up later on.
Well, if we were to kind of show that efforted information, one of us probably would have looked up Sugarland Space Cowboys game results and looked at box scores, but that's not us.
Yeah, come on. That's really
that's what Twitter's for.
I've also spent a lot of time making a new entry with the Curb Your Enthusiasm theme, and that just felt more important to me at the time. But, what are you going to do? But yeah, I don't know, man. It's been I guess part of why we haven't seen any news about him is that it has been, they don't play on Mondays, so that helps. But let's see, what did he do on Sunday? it looks like he didn't play. What did he do on Saturday?
Which to me doesn't feel great. And maybe I'm just, overthinking things, but that doesn't – he's on a rehab assignment. They have a need to have him come back.
So on Saturday, he went 0 for 2 with 2 walks. So, again, getting on base. And then I think he started his rehab on Friday.
Yeah, he's batting 111 in his rehab assignments.
Not terrific.
But his OPS is 384.
Well, mostly, I just want to make sure that the dude can play defense at this point in time. But I don't know, Andy, how much longer, talk about off-season decisions and this and that. And I'm not trying to be like that guy, but I think the Astros are a better baseball team with Cesar Salazar starting at catcher. Just because I feel like Yanier is so inept at defensively playing the position anymore. And I feel like, and don't come at me with defensive metrics, people, because all those defensive measuring sticks in baseball are highly flawed. They really are. But
well, even if they're flawed, none of them say that he's good at anything.
No, there's like one. Somebody said like out to above average. He's like, or fielding percentage.
Okay. Framing and throwing out runners. What happens to those? Oh, well, framing doesn't matter anymore because we're going to get ABS next year, so we don't need him to do that.
I have ABS.
Yes. I think I said during the trade deadline, but I know I've thought it, and I probably texted it to you. I would take Yainer's 18 home runs and sell as high as I could on him this offseason.
I would too.
And partly because I'm fine with you if you can sign Carantini for another year or two while you figure out whether Yannick's going to be your guy or you need to go find another catcher. Because I don't think I think Salazar Caratini is as good at a defensive play or a better defensive play than what we're putting out there right now. The Astros also have a glut of infielders that they're going to have to deal with. One of the things we didn't mention, is that Isaac Paredes is telling people he's coming back. Where do you play him? I mean, I'm trying to figure out this lineup, and I think I've worked it out that if you DH Jordan, you have to stick one of those outfielders in left field, or Altuve has to be your full-time left fielder, and Isaac's going to have to play second base, or Correa's. I mean, I don't know where you put him.
I mean, the problem, and this is where Yordan Alvarez as your DH becomes problematic because he is too young to be a full-time DH, because the solution should be Yordan to left field, Altuve to second base, Paredes as your DH because he's only got one leg, and then let's go win the World Series. But you can't do that.
And that's what would make sense to me, but that's not what's being whispered about. Because we treat Yordan like he's made of glass, which apparently he is. And that's not even picking. I don't think he can control his health. So I'm not picking on Yordan for his availability or lack thereof. But I don't know where you fit Paredes in there, knowing that you already have two guys who probably should be your full-time DH that we have to rotate through the lineup. And that's not to mention the rest days that other guys normally get in that DH role. So it's going to be really interesting to watch how Espada puts it together if Paredes comes back, if he makes it back. I think you'll see incremental improvement in run prevention when Myers comes back, because he's going to be better than Melton or what Trammell was doing before his injury.
And Melton is just a hard watch at this point.
I will say he's seems like a good kid, and he's trying real hard, but he's just overmatched by Major League pitching.
I think, and that's the thing.
And he wouldn't be up, and I think everybody needs to. He would not be up without the glut of injuries the Astros had. There was no plans on Melton making his Major League debut this year.
No, and it's obviously a less extreme situation, but it reminds me of what the Yankees have done to Volpe, where they might have just ruined this kid.
Or he was never a Major League quality shortstop to begin with, and shouldn't have been in that position.
Right. That's true. It's just, it's been rough. The big news coming out of Minute Maid Park this Saturday, or this Monday was a piece of Tyler Ward's head. Was it Tyler Ward who ran into the
yes
scoreboard? And of course, now everybody wants it removed.
I think it's Taylor Ward.
Taylor Ward, whoever. Anyway, his chunk of the forehead is now sitting in the middle of left center field. My question to you, and I saw somebody, and I think it was the Astros locker who said that you're 6 times more likely to get hit by a car than run into the scoreboard. And like it's happened twice in 20 years. Yet people are wanting, now everybody's clutching pearls, wanting the metal scoreboard to be removed. Come on, man.
Look, we took away our flagpole and our hill. You're not getting rid of the scoreboard.
Begrudgingly. I'm upset about that still.
Well, that still irritates me because all we ever heard is all the people who are going to get injured because of that hill.
0 people got hurt.
0 people were ever injured because of the hill.
These people forget it was 410 feet away. Like, balls don't get hit out there.
And the couple that do provided high entertainment because Lance Berkman had to catch balls on his ass a couple times.
Yeah.
You want to know how far down the Astros have been? Lance Berkman was our center fielder at one point.
Yeah.
You ever seen him? He's a first baseman.
Should be a Hall of Famer, though.
He should have been on the ballot for more than one turn through. Maybe our president will insert himself into that as well.
Yeah. Department of War apparently is coming.
Well, no, he went on. I don't know if you saw, because hopefully you're ignoring most of it, but went on a big run about Roger Clemens being immediately placed into the Hall of Fame because he said so, and it will be the same as the deal I made with Manfred about Pete Rose, which was a very curious turn of phrase for me. Now, I admit that 90% of what Trump is saying is bluster and
he might not even know he's saying it at this point. That dude's senile.
And meant to be riling up somebody. But do I believe that he would have said something to Manfred and Manfred would have made things happen to keep his buddy happy? 100%.
Yeah.
Because, when half of your player roster requires visas to travel with teams, you need the guy who has his thumb on immigration to kind of be on your side.
Yeah. As we wrap up today, though, you did go see The Roses. Give us a quick review. I mean, I saw a video the other day saying that comedy in the cinema is dead, yet like 2 weeks ago we had Naked Gun. That movie did well. Looks like The Roses is doing well. Overall thoughts on the film?
Well, I think comedy making money is probably dead because I don't think studios know how to market comedies anymore, but that's an entirely different conversation.
Right.
I like The Roses. I like Benedict Cumberbatch. I like Olivia Colman. It is a really dark comedy. And if you remember the original War of the Roses with DeVito and Turner and that cast, it to me was a good movie, but it almost bordered on a little slapstick. This is not that. This is a lot darker comedy and a lot of laughs. I will be the first to admit that if you haven't been married for 24 years, you might not get some of it or might think that it's cruel. There was, and maybe you can relate to this, Jim, maybe not. There's a scene where Benedict Cumberbatch's character Theo is upset about something, but he knows he doesn't really have a right to be, and spends about 30 seconds telling himself not to be a dick, not to be a dick, not to be a dick before his wife walks in the room and then proceeds to be a dick.
Oh, yeah, I can relate to that. About 4 times this weekend, I could relate to
that. So it's very entertaining. It was very funny. There were a number of laugh out loud moments. I think that Andy Samberg and Kate McKinnon as side characters were really, really funny in it. But it is, I don't know that single people are going to enjoy it as much as I did as somebody who is celebrating his 24th wedding anniversary yesterday.
Well, wait a minute. Hold on a second. You went to see the movie for the anniversary? We
did it the day before.
Oh, wow. All right.
And I turned to my wife and said, you've got about 12 hours before you don't have to be married 24 years. So
you got to figure that out. All right. Well, Andy, I'm hoping you and I are married on this show for 24 years. That's what I hope.
Sure.
Yeah. For Andy Tom Cheston, I am Jim Christopher. This has been Off Day with Ballpark Nation. We will see you guys on Friday as we get ready to preview 2 games that don't matter. And I think the Astros, Andy, will be 4 games up by the time we get here.
Meanwhile, I'm going to Memphis and trying to decide whether or not I'm going to throw a pitch out at the ball game.
I'm telling you.
They cost $100.
Throughout the first pitch, the company will pay for it. We call that advertising. All right. For Andy, I'm Jim. This has been Off Day with Ballpark Nation.